When my mother passed away, we held her funeral at our family home. It was a quiet, sad day, but then my mother-in-law, Nancy, showed up with a strange smile on her face. She walked right in and said, "This house will be inherited by my son." Then, looking around the rooms, she added, "I wonder which one I should take." I politely told her, "Actually, I'm the one inheriting this house." She didn't seem bothered at all. Instead, she said with a smile, "I know, but you see, whatever a wife owns really belongs to her husband. So, this house belongs to my son, right?" I sighed and wondered if she really believed what she was saying. Then she cheerfully said, "From now on, let's get along." I hesitated and asked, "What do you mean by get along?" She confidently answered, "I'm going to make this room my room." I was shocked and asked, "So, you mean we'll all be living together?" Without a second thought, she said, "Exactly, it would be a waste to have such a big house with empty rooms when two families can live here." At that moment, I felt a wave of sadness and anger. My mother had just died, and my mother-in-law seemed completely unaware of my pain. How could she think it was okay to talk about living together now? This house held so many precious memories. My father had built it, and my mother loved it dearly. I did not want her to move in, and worst of all, my husband wasn't stopping her. I am 42 years old and work in an office. I never expected to get married, especially after I turned 40 and was still single, but through an introduction, I met Michael, who is 4 years younger than me. We got married, and he is a kind husband who usually listens to me. When we got married, I asked, "Where should we go for our honeymoon? You said Europe sounded nice." He replied, "But you also said you liked the Maldives, so let's go there." One day, he told me, "My mom wants to live with us. Dad isn't doing well, and she's having a hard time managing alone." I was surprised, "But didn't we agree before marriage that we wouldn't live together?" He said, "You're right, I'll talk to my mom." I appreciated that he listened to me. I was lucky to find such a good man, but there was one sadness. My father had passed away 3 years before I got married. I never got to show him my wedding or tell him I was happy. My father was a strict but respected executive at a small company. Though the company was small, it paid well, and our family home was big enough to hold a funeral. As I worked and grew up, I respected my father more and more. 2 years after I married, my mother also passed away. At the funeral, my husband stayed by my side, supporting me. I was grateful for him, but then my mother-in-law arrived. She said, "I'm very sorry for your loss." I said, "Thank you." Before then, I didn't know my mother-in-law very well. We kept some distance, but at the funeral, I saw a new side of her. After the ceremony, she came to me with a strange smile. "Thank you for your help. Because of you, everything went smoothly." Then suddenly she said, "The funeral is over now. Isn't it time to move on?" She walked into the house, looking around. "Such a nice house your parents have. I wonder which room I should take." I said, "Wait, Mom, you can't just do that." She ignored me and walked deeper inside. "Don't worry about the small mess. The important thing is that this house will be inherited by my son. Maybe I'll take this room." I told her, "Actually, I'm the one inheriting the house." She smiled slyly. "Yes, but since you don't have siblings, and whatever a wife owns belongs to her husband, this house really belongs to my son." I sighed again, not sure if she was serious. She said cheerfully, "From now on, we should all get along." I asked nervously, "What do you mean?" She said, "This room will be my room." I was shocked. "So we'll be living together?" She nodded happily. "Yes, why waste this big house when we can share it? I won't have to take care of my husband alone anymore." I was upset. My mother had just died, and here she was joking about living together. My husband stepped in and said, "Mom, this isn't the time for this." But she said, "Why make such a fuss?" My husband firmly told her to leave. "Please go." He apologized to me. "Sorry, my mom can be difficult." I was thankful for him, but deep down, I worried he might not be as strong as I hoped. 10 days after the funeral, when things calmed down, we talked about moving. I said, "This apartment is too small. Maybe we should move back to your parents' house." He agreed, "Yes, especially if we have kids, we need more space." But then he said something I wasn't ready for. "I think my parents should move in with us." I was shocked. "You mean we'd all live together?" Lately, I felt my husband was changing. He seemed more like a yes man to his mother than a partner to me. Even though I told him I didn't want to live with my in-laws, he kept pushing it. I don't want to live with someone who barged into my parents' house on the day of the funeral and claimed a room, I said firmly. He said, Mom keeps asking, I'll tell her how you feel. After that, my mother-in-law called me, angry. Why are you against living together? It's a big house, and your husband's parents are your parents too. I told her again, I don't want to live with you because of my husband's health and the challenges I face. She accused me of being heartless. I reminded her why we felt this way. A few days later, my husband surprised me by rearranging the living room furniture. What are you doing? I asked. Making space for 2 beds, he said. I felt dread. Are your parents moving in now? He nodded. Yes, their lease ended, so they're moving in here. It'll be crowded, but we have to manage. I couldn't believe it. Despite my objections, my husband and mother-in-law were pushing me to live with them. I wondered, why is this happening? He said, we decided not to renew their lease. It's going to be cramped for all 4 of us, but it's only for a little while. I realized then that I had to make a choice to protect my family home and my own peace, no matter what. I felt really upset and said again, that's not what I meant. Why are we even talking about living together? I've told you many times, I don't want to live with someone who barged into my parents' house on the day of my mother's funeral and just decided which room she wanted to live in. My husband said, don't worry, I'll talk to Mom about it. Then, without much hesitation, he added, we will be living together from now on, so, please try to get along with her. His words annoyed me. I asked, why do you always listen to everything your mom says and ignore me? He tried to explain, it's not like I only listen to her. I hear both of you and try to make a good decision. But I could see the truth. When it came to his mother, my husband had already fallen for her plan. She had convinced him to accept this cohabitation, and he thought it was his own choice. I had thought he was a kind man, but with her around, he became difficult, pushing me into living with my in-laws against my will. When my in-laws moved into our small apartment, my mother-in-law immediately started complaining about how cramped it was. I apologized for the situation and told them we would manage until we could move to a bigger place. My father-in-law was polite and quiet, and at first, I thought he wouldn't be a problem, but little by little, I noticed he was just following my mother-in-law's lead, saying yes to whatever she wanted. One day, my mother-in-law asked me to go buy some medicated patches for her. It seemed like such a small thing, but it annoyed me. Why was she making decisions without even asking me? It made me worry about what other demands might come in the future. Living together like this was feeling impossible. As my mother-in-law talked excitedly about moving into the big house my parents had left behind, I started planning quietly on my own. I wanted to protect that home, the one filled with my parents' memories. After about 10 days passed quietly, I made a big decision. I told them I was giving up my right to inherit the house, and I even showed them the official papers from the court. I said, that house means so much to me, but I can't let you live there, so I gave up the inheritance. It will stay a beautiful memory in my heart, and that's all. My mother-in-law got angry and said, why would you do something so foolish? Even if you don't want the house, you could have sold it for money. Why just give it up like that? I stayed calm and explained, if I sold it, you would just use the money next. It's better if I have nothing to do with it. She replied, we left our old place to move here. You know what you're doing. How do you plan to make it up to us? I stood my ground firmly. I have always said no to living together, but you forced it on me without any proper talk, so I made this decision. My husband and mother-in-law were shocked. Their faces turned pale, and they didn't know what to say. My father-in-law looked confused, watching both of them. But I didn't stop there. Michael, I said quietly, I've been thinking about getting a divorce. What do you think? He stammered, divorce? My mother-in-law quickly jumped in. Michael, you should divorce this crazy wife right now. I was expecting her to say that. I wanted to see if my husband could stand up for me or if he would just follow her. Mom, he mumbled, not answering clearly. I had already made up my mind. Divorce was the only way out. Fine, said my mother-in-law sharply. Divorce is the best choice. My father-in-law added, Michael, we can't help it. Your mother insists on it. My husband sighed and said, it sounds like you want a divorce too. Maybe it's for the best. Even with small decisions, both my husband and father-in-law just followed whatever my mother-in-law said. And now my husband was acting like he changed his mind just to please me. All right, I said, let's go through with the divorce. I'll move out with just a few things. That night, I stayed in a cheap hotel. The next day, I took half a day off work and went to the courthouse to start the process. A few days later, my mother-in-law called me angrily. What's going on? It looks like the house is becoming yours. Why are you making a fuss now? I asked, did you find out because of the estate process? She said, yes, that house belongs to you now. You must have faked the documents and tricked us, she shouted. I stayed calm. Why would I fake documents that the court needs? They are all real. Then why is the house yours if you said you gave up the inheritance? I explained. Right after that, I withdrew my application to renounce the inheritance. It's hard to give up an inheritance once you accept it, but the law says you have about a month to decide. During that time, you can take back the renunciation if you want. The papers I showed them were only for the first step, not the final acceptance. I wanted them to believe I gave up the house, so I could see how they would react and decide what to do next. I never expected my husband or mother-in-law to react the way they did.